On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by First Fidelity Bank, we've got an interview with ESPN's Holly Rowe. Holly is quite possibly the most well-liked person in all of college football, and we talk OU, Oklahoma State, Big 12, and some national college football with her. Before Holly's interview, we give you a little update about what OU's doing during the bye week. In the National College Football Roundup, we discuss the big news in college football and preview a less than stellar slate of games. We give you our winners and losers of the week and wet the beak with a tradition unlike any other. Oh yeah, the Masters is this weekend. To finish up, we break down the Thunder's new head coach in Keepin It Local. Well, really, we just try to figure out how to pronounce his last name. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right. Our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. November 12th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by First Fidelity Bank. First Fidelity Bank is a full-service financial institution based in Oklahoma with tailored solutions for all your personal and business needs. Checking accounts, saving accounts, home loans, and much more. They do it all. Whether it's online banking from your computer or mobile banking from your phone, everything is stress-free with FFB. Making mobile deposits, paying bills online, and moving money to different accounts could not be easier. First Fidelity Bank provides free ATMs worldwide, making banking convenient wherever you are. They also give back to the community. FFB donates a total of more than $500,000 to local charities and educational foundations. Make your life easier and go bank at First Fidelity Bank. Visit ffb.com for more information. Now, we're recording this on Wednesday night. We have got an interview with everybody's favorite, Holly Rowe from ESPN, and it's pretty great, Ted.
You get everything in there. You get some personal stories with some players. You get a personal story from her that's great. You get some football stuff. I thought it was one of the better, like, all-around interviews that we've had on here. It was great.
Yeah, and I do a radio show with Holly every weekday, so she's spectacular and one of my favorite people. So I think you guys will enjoy that. But first and foremost, we are recording this on Wednesday night, and it is Veterans Day. So happy Veterans Day to all of you that have served this country or are currently serving this country. You guys are heroes. And I think a lot of people talk about, athletes, whether it's football players, basketball players, talk about them being role models and being heroes when it really is the men and women that serve this country in the military, because they do shit that other people don't want to do, right? I know I'm not tough enough to do that stuff. I'm not built for it, but the men and women that protect this country and allow us to live the way that we live, I hope that those people know that we appreciate you. And I hope there's not a single day that goes by where you don't feel appreciated, because you guys are the reason that we're able to get on this podcast and talk about sports and say what we want to say. And I know that I don't know how always to express my appreciation for the people that serve in the military, but I just hope they feel really appreciated, because they should, Ted.
No, you do what you can when you can. There's no doubt about it. And I always joke with my wife whenever Veterans Day comes around that every day's Veterans Day in our house, because my son, Edward, he's named after my grandfather's brother who was shot down over Germany in World War II. So, that's a big thing in our family, and it's they pay the ultimate price, and they go out there and we complain about a lot of things, and right now there's some guys sleeping on cots in a base in Afghanistan, and yeah, you love what they do for us, man. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't start the episode complaining about my internet, because which I am at my mother-in-law's again, right? It came back, but it dropped a couple of times when I was doing radio today. So I was like, I can't trust it. I can't trust it. I can't let it mess up the podcast. So instead of starting with me bitching about my internet, I decided, I was like, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. We got some people that are serving this country that, in the grand scheme of things, the internet isn't
Yeah.
that big
I
of a
mean,
deal.
it's a good thing you swallowed the joke, because I know that it was on the tip of your tongue to say, well, I bet those guys have internet at that base.
I was going to do that, and then I was like, that's a bad idea, Gabe. Don't do that. All right, Ted, let's get to the local college football, and that's brought to you by Will and Wiley Hard Seltzer. Guys, stop acting like you're too manly and just accept it. Hard seltzers are amazing, and there's only one hard seltzer that we drink on this podcast, and that is Will and Wiley Hard Seltzer from Coop Ale Works. It's perfect for any occasion. We drink it by the pool, at the lake, and at the tailgate. We should probably change that, huh? Because it's not pool, so we drink it by the fire. I guess you could still go to the by the fire, on the couch watching football. I don't know, but we'll figure it out.
Time for a rewrite.
Yeah, it's made in Oklahoma, and it's absolutely delicious. Will and Wiley is customized for the Oklahoma lifestyle. Go find it right now in a store near you, and go follow them on social media at Will and Wiley. If you're drinking some because of us, tag us in your social media posts to let them know. Okay, a quick note about Oklahoma before we get to call your shot and then our interview with Holly. The Sooners are treating this week the same as they treated their early bye weeks. They're going 3 hard days of practice. They're going to do some light stuff this weekend, and they're going to do a little bit less good on good because it's later in the season. So you start working in more things against the scouts, right? Where you're game planning. So you've got to throttle it down just a little bit when you get into the month of November, just with how guys' bodies wear down throughout the season. But the bye week certainly, I think it helps a lot with that hip bruise that Spencer Rattler's got, with that thigh bruise that Austin Stogner has. So that helps those guys recover. And I think those guys need this bye week. It also lets Jaden Hazelwood get a little more comfortable with that knee, right? I mean, you get to get him more full speed reps in practice. You get to get him more reps with the first team offense in practice. And then you look at the other side of things with Oklahoma State, right? Because we are heading into Bedlam next weekend. They may need this bye even worse than OU does, because I think Oklahoma State is really glad that this game isn't this week with what they've got going on with Chuba Hubbard and Tylan Wallace, and LD Brown was banged up coming into that game last week. Colby Harvell-Peel had to miss another game. Trey Sterling, I guess, banged up as well. So the list goes on and on for Oklahoma State, Teddy.
Did they ever say what Tylan Wallace had? Did they ever put that out?
All I've heard from people that cover Oklahoma State is that it is muscular. So it sounds like he pulled a hammy or a quad or like a calf in practice. And if you pull a hammy, I mean, 2.5 weeks that's not a lot of time to, of course, depending on what you did to it, but it's not a ton of time to get back. And he's such an impactful player for them, man. I don't know.
Hamstrings they're the most difficult injury to predict how much time a guy's going to miss. I had a hamstring that basically would never get right. They couldn't find the divot in it. The muscle tear was so small, but I couldn't run at all, couldn't move on it at all, or it would bite and it would get worse. I played with the guy, John McGraw. He was a safety from Kansas State. Played with him in Detroit. He was all over the league, but he played essentially an entire season with the back of both of his hamstrings totally black and blue, with a massive tear in his hamstrings. And he was fine. He could run, and it hurt. It was painful, but it wouldn't get worse. So it's like some guys, because of their stride or their flexibility, can play off of it. other guys, it's like it's never going to get right. It's going to ruin the season for them.
We'll see. I mean, from what people that are around that program are saying, like, it doesn't sound like a done deal that Tylan Wallace is playing in Bedlam.
Yeah.
Right.
That changes everything for them.
They seem skeptical. I'm not going to believe he's not playing in that game until I see him on the sideline without a uniform on. Right. But yeah, that would be massive. So both the Sooners and the Cowboys enjoying a much needed bye week from what it sounds like. All right, Teddy, let's move on to Call Your Shot. And Call Your Shot's brought to you by Rock and Roll Tequila. Rock and Roll Tequila is the ultra premium tequila that hits all the right notes. It's won all kinds of awards for its superior taste and smooth finish. To find a store that has it, visit rockandrolltequila.com or check out their Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. This stuff is legit. If you don't want to take my word for it, maybe you'll listen to this guy.
This is Coach Bob Stoops. When you're a college football coach, it's important to have an eye for talent. The same holds true when choosing your tequila. When I tried Rock and Roll, I liked it so much, I decided to become a partner in this Oklahoma-owned company. Crafted in the highlands of Jalisco, Mexico, the smooth taste of Rock and Roll's triple distilled platinum, our añejo, called Cristalino, and the incredible premium quality mango tequila are awesome. Our defiantly unique guitar-shaped bottles make it easy to find, and you'll love the ultra-premium quality and taste. No excuses. Make Rock and Roll your game day tequila. Tastefully rebellious, start the party with Rock and Roll.
And we asked, what is your boldest prediction for the rest of the OU season? And we're going to go with one that comes in from Taylor M on Twitter at OU_Morgan. He says, OU wins out, gains a 6th consecutive Big 12 championship, narrowly misses the playoffs, and absolutely smashes an SEC team in a good bowl game. Oh, and the defense finishes in the top 15 in total defense. Hashtag Boomer. Appreciate the hashtag Boomer, Taylor. Thank you. That's a lot in one tweet, but nothing really out of the realm of possibility, right?
No, it's not. I'm trying to bring up the defensive stats right now. They haven't given up an incredible amount of yards to anyone. They are probably, it's not numbered here, they're inside the top 25 right now for total defense, 338 a game.
I've got them on NCAA.com. Now, I don't really count it because they've got Wisconsin and Western Michigan and Toledo, teams that have only played one game on here. But with everyone that has played a game at all, Oklahoma is 27th in total defense.
I got them. I just counted it. I got them at number 17 on teams that have played more than 6 or more. So that's pretty good.
I agree.
I think that's doable. Now they're going to have to continue to play well down the stretch, but I think they're capable of that. So yeah, I think that one's doable. I'll tell you what's interesting though. Win out. Narrowly get the 6th Big 12 championship, narrowly miss the college football playoff, and play an SEC team in a good bowl. If that's what happens, if OU wins the Big 12, that's exactly what they're going to do. And they're going to play either, my guess would be Florida in the Cotton Bowl or Texas A&M in the Cotton Bowl. I think Florida wins out and then loses to Alabama in the SEC championship game. And that would most likely put them in the Cotton Bowl against the Big 12 champion, the highest ranked team in the Big 12.
Who would you rather OU play in that game? I would rather them get Florida. Because
for the chance to win the game or for my mentions?
For a chance to win the game and really take some positive momentum into the offseason, because I think OU's offense would shred Florida's defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think A&M, I'm starting to be an A&M believer. I don't like it one bit, but
they're good on the line of scrimmage. Yeah.
They got an offensive line. They got a defensive line.
See, that's the one thing that I love how our defensive line is playing. I do. I love that they're getting to the quarterback. I love that they, are penetrating, stopping the run. But let's face it, they haven't played even an average offensive line this year. Every offensive line they've played is bad by like top 25 football standards, right? I mean, and A&M's got a great offensive line.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the last thing we want is – no, I would love to see it. I'd love to go to that bowl. I'll tell you what I don't want. I don't want Oklahoma to win out, win a Big 12, and then go to the Fiesta Bowl and play like BYU or Cincinnati. Because while I think that would be a great game, you get no credit at all for beating either one of those teams. If you go beat BYU, it's like, oh, well, of course you beat BYU. They haven't played anyone this year. If you go beat Cincinnati, it's like, well, what do you expect? They're, a group of 5 football team. Of course, Oklahoma beat Cincinnati. But if you lose, it's like, it's the end of the world type stuff. It's a lose-lose situation for Oklahoma.
Yeah, that is the definition of a lose-lose for the Sooners. But, I think that's a pretty reasonable call your shot. I really do. All right, Ted, let's get to our interview with Holly Rowe. She is an absolutely spectacular human being. Of course, you see her on ESPN all the time, covering all kinds of different sports, but she is in the weeds now in college football season. And here is our interview with Holly. It is our pleasure to be joined by quite possibly the most well-liked human being in all of college football. You see her face all over ESPN. You can also hear her on what I'm told is one hell of a radio show on SiriusXM Big 12 Radio. She is the co-host of Big 12 Today with me. She is one of my favorite human beings on planet Earth. Holly Rowe is in the house. Well, hello, Holly.
Hello. So I have been long waiting to do this show with you two because I feel a little bit like Teddy's The Other Woman. I see you guys doing this podcast and I see you guys having chemistry and sharing a show together. And I feel totally jealous constantly.
Well, hey, jelly. You know what? I'll tell you, I am getting some of the same benefit that you get. When you work opposite Gabe, you turn into the likable person, and it's just like it pours in, it's fantastic.
I really can't even argue with that. That seems accurate.
No, Gabe's likable. He likes to play the foil. He likes to play the villain.
Now, Holly, you have been covering college football for quite a while now, been doing it as part of some of the best crews, right, in broadcasting. And now you cover the Big 12 a lot more closely because of our radio show over there on SiriusXM channel 375. And it's made it a lot of fun for me. But this is a podcast that is very college football heavy. And I know you listen to it because you've told me you listened to it before. So that made me happy.
I do. I'm a show stalker.
Yeah, but it's also big influence Oklahoma football, Oklahoma State football. So I wanted to start with OU football with you. You were at the game against TCU just a couple weeks ago, got to see the team in person, and just what did you think of the team when you saw them for the first time, and what have you seen from them in the last couple of weeks? Because it seems like this team has started playing a lot better football.
Yeah, it was really interesting because I feel like we labor over these teams and we read everything and we obsess over these teams. And until you see them in person, I don't think you really know what you know. And so seeing them in person, there were a couple of takeaways. I thought the defensive front for Oklahoma was a lot better than I thought they would be. I really liked some of their guys up front. I thought that they had depth at linebacker that I didn't think they had. I guess I would say I was overall pleased with the size of the defense and the way they could hold up in the run game more than I anticipated. We criticize the back end of the Oklahoma defense, and I feel bad because I know those kids are trying really hard and they're doing the best they can. But I was really surprised with how good that Oklahoma defense was up front, and I know they continue to improve.
I'll tell you what's interesting in getting to see Oklahoma throughout the years. In a 4-year span, you get Baker Mayfield, you get Kyler Murray, you get Jalen Hurts, and now you get Spencer Rattler. I don't know that there's ever been a team that has 4 high-profile quarterbacks 4 years in a row like that. What's that kind of been like to cover, and how do you think Spencer matches up with those guys both on the field and like demeanor off the field?
Yeah, it's funny. In 20 years, when we look back on this, when we're all old and looking back on the time that we used to cover college football, we're going to be like, are you kidding me? That's the run of quarterbacks they had at Oklahoma. And the thing that's crazy is Oklahoma is a place that has had a run of quarterbacks. They've had good quarterbacks there. So many Heisman Trophy winners, from Jason White, Sam Bradford, and historically good quarterbacks when Barry Switzer was there. So that is an embarrassment of riches at the quarterback position for Oklahoma. So first of all, that's really cool. But I did get a chance to, I would call it obsessively study Spencer Rattler. So, I hadn't met him before, hadn't been able to talk to him before. So I was able to spend some time on the phone with him. Then I was able to kind of talk to him in person on the field, and I got to meet his parents in the stands. And one of the things that I don't think a lot of people have talked about is just how close he is with his family. Before the game, he was over there talking to his parents and his sister Olivia before the game. And then there was a play in the game, and because there's not many fans in the stands, it was pretty easy to pick this out. He makes a play, he goes and stands over on the sideline, and I see him look up into the stands and do some kind of little signal that I am guessing was to his parents and to his family. And then after the game, he went right back to the stands to spend more time with his family. And I was like, this is the stuff on the side that we're not seeing or hearing necessarily about Spencer Rattler. Is he's so sweet and so cute with his parents. I just, he's this high profile kid. We've heard about him and hyped him up forever, but I just loved that little personal piece that I witnessed and saw about him that I don't think a lot of people have talked about.
Yeah, and going back to that game, because Teddy and I, we were in the booth and you were down on the field. I remember you telling me like, hey, Spencer Rattler is actually a little better built than I thought. Because if there's one thing, I've learned this about you, Holly, if there's one thing that you do not like, it is scrawny quarterbacks. You are not a fan of scrawny quarterbacks.
I like football player body. You know what I mean? Like I learned this phrase from a book about Nick Saban is the moneymaker. And it's a phrase they use about, the booty of the offensive lineman or defensive lineman. But I think there's some real truth to moneymakers position across the board positionally for football players. And when I see guys with thin legs, I'm immediately like, I don't like it. He can't withstand a beating. I don't know, and so when I saw him last year as a freshman, just standing on the sidelines, and I did see him at practice a couple of times, he was slender. He's a thin, slim-hipped guy, but he put on weight in the off season. I did talk to him about it, and he did try to bulk up, not a lot, but maybe 10 pounds or something. And I think he is more athletic than I realized. As a high school basketball player, really good basketball player. He played 3 sports growing up for most of his life. And I think he was more athletic than I initially gave him credit for. And then the other thing I will say is in this serial obsession I've had stalking him, when I finally got to meet him and see him, dude has arm talent. Like there was a play in the game. I was standing over by Joe Castiglione on the far side, right side 20-yard line. And Spencer's throwing to my left, and he throws the ball downfield. I think it went to Marvin Mims. And I literally gasped out loud. I was like, oh, like that throw, it told me everything I needed to see about Spencer Rattler. So, ask Gabe. I've been really poo-pooing all the hype. I hate it when we hype up kids and they have nowhere to go but fail in college football because we've hyped them up so unnecessarily. I don't know if we hyped him up enough. Like he can really, really spin it.
I'm always slow to come around on quarterbacks. It's a character flaw for me. I'm always like the last. Everyone's like, "Oh, he's good." I'm like, I don't know. But I'm with you. He's been great, and he's getting better week by week. It feels like too. If you're talking about like the football body, like if you look at the running back position at Oklahoma throughout the last couple of years with Mixon and Samaje Perine and Kennedy Brooks, Trey Sermon, we've had some really big backs. And this year it's kind of a little different, with Ramondre Stevenson out. We had Seth McGowan, who's a true freshman, and I think he'll grow into that position a little bit. And then TJ Pledger. And we were a little bit smaller there than we've been in the past, but Ramondre Stevenson comes in and he's 245 pounds. And like we talk about it all the time, like the difference he's made in the running game. And I'm guessing you saw the same thing, and it's kind of opened up this Oklahoma offense.
Yeah, when I saw the running game in person, I have to say I was kind of like, ooh, this is not a typical Oklahoma running game. And that is not to knock, TJ Pledger, who's doing the best he can. And I do think Seth McGowan, the young freshman, has something, he's big. He's got a thick lower body, and I think he can be good once he learns what to look for. I think he's still trying to pick up the holes in some categories and be patient with his offensive line play in front of him. But Ramondre Stevenson, I'm so proud of this kid. I mean, I know he got suspended. I know he made mistakes and didn't do the right thing. But whatever he did during this suspension, he hit the field ready to play and ready to contribute. And I think that's hard for a kid right now through COVID and being kind of isolated from the team and not being able to contribute right away. I'm proud of the way he came back from the suspension. And he's averaging 8 yards a carry. I know he's only had 24 attempts, but 8 yards a carry, man, like you say, hit the ground running. Like he literally hit the ground running. He hit the field running for Oklahoma, and it's made a world of difference in their running game.
Now, Holly, one more OU question, because I want to talk about Oklahoma State. I want to talk about the Big 12 as a whole, but since we've been working together, you always bring the same thing up with me when it comes to Oklahoma, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and that's they just don't have the body types. They don't have the athletes that you see when you go cover, big SEC games or Big Ten games. And you've always brought it up. With what you saw the other week, do you think they're headed in the right direction, especially defensively, with the body types that Alex Grinch and Lincoln Riley are starting to bring in the program? Do you think that is starting to change? Is that how it looked to you?
Yes. So where that manifested itself immediately was the defensive front. And I like their linebackers, kind of that jack position, that hybrid position, and their linebackers. I think they look better. I'm still not completely happy with the length in the defensive end, and that doesn't always present itself as height. But I think the defensive back end for Oklahoma is still too small. I don't think they're long enough. And, like I go and look at other teams, and they've got guys that have range, that have, we would call it on a wide receiver, a catch circumference. DBs have to have that because they've got to be able to get an arm up in there or be able to jump up or extend on a play to disrupt a ball. And so I don't think the secondary is where it should be right now. But I did talk to Alex Grinch about it, and I showed him this. I did a 2-page survey in my workbook, like literally before the Oklahoma game. I wrote down every DB on the roster, and then I did the size breakdown, by class. And then I did it for all the other top teams in the country. And he said, don't show it to me. I don't want to know how bad we stack up against other teams. I was like, look at this crazy professor research project I did on your secondary length. And he was like, I don't, they are definitely trying to get a little bit bigger, 6-foot guys. They have, I think, 4 freshmen that are 5'11" or taller. So I see them trying to upgrade. They just need to do more there, in my opinion.
No, they talk about that frequently. They'll say a little bit about it publicly. They'll say a lot about it privately. They are trying to get bigger in the secondary. And not to get too much into the weeds on this, but whenever you do go and see SEC teams and cover other conferences, Big Ten conference, there's been a perception of the Big 12 that, they don't play defense in the Big 12. how much do you think that's hurting the entire conference when it comes to getting those type of body types in to play those big edge guys, the 6'3" safety on the back end? How much of just the perception, there's some really good defense being played in the Big 12 at times, but nationally everyone just throws it away is that they don't play defense there. I think that's got to be part of the problem, right?
It's weird because part of that is a false narrative. Yes, they play good defense in the Big 12. The offenses have just been really, really good, right? But it's also the style of offense. So if you are recruiting to a style, if you're recruiting to try to stop, back in the day, let's say 10 years ago, you're trying to recruit people that could stop Mike Leach's little fast, small, in and out wide receivers. And so if you had a 6'3" safety, they might not be able to cover some of the Michael Crabtree and some of those guys. You know what I'm saying? Like there was some stylistic recruiting of secondaries because of the style of wide receivers they're being asked to cover in the Big 12. So there's that. But I do think that this year, I don't think Big 12 offenses are great this year. You look at Oklahoma State, I think they're only averaging like 28 points per game. Oklahoma is getting a little bit better, edging up towards 40 something. But, in years past, you look at Oklahoma, they're averaging 50 points a game. Oklahoma State, 52 points a game. I think scoring across the board in the Big 12 is down this year, but I don't necessarily think it's because it's great defense. I just think this isn't a great offensive year from what I've seen in person. I've covered 2 Big 12 games so far this season. I just saw Texas and West Virginia in person. I just don't think people are really spinning it. Like, I don't think that everybody's clicking. And I just think the offenses are a little bit behind. And I credit it to the pandemic of trying to install systems and offense and gain rhythm and timing on Zoom. Like, I just think people are behind. That chemistry and that gel is not happening right now, I don't think.
Yeah, that's definitely a really good point. And, a guy we talked about a lot heading into this season was Spencer Sanders. And we were so curious as to what Oklahoma State was going to get from him. And he has been spectacular at moments this season. And then just, I don't want to say awful, maybe that's too harsh, but he has made some bad decisions with the football. Now, you and I have talked about it. A lot of people are talking about Chuba Hubbard, how he is not playing maybe as well as people thought. Same goes for Spencer Sanders and that Oklahoma State offense as a whole. But isn't the problem for Oklahoma State's offense, it all starts with their offensive line, right?
You are singing music to my ears. Teddy's going to go into a coma right now if you and I start talking about. So, Teddy, you don't know me well, but I'm obsessed with offensive line play, which is why Gabe and I get along so well. And everybody started out the season criticizing Chuba, and now they're criticizing Spencer Sanders. And I feel like we're over in the corner jumping up and down, like their offensive line has lost 4 guys. Like the entire right side of the line got hurt after the first week. This has been a rebuilt, makeshift offensive line, and I think it's showing up for Oklahoma State. I know that you are super hard on Spencer Sanders, but I wanted to challenge you with one stat and tell me what you think of this. And Teddy, you chime in here too. So Gabe is really hard on Spencer Sanders. He is completing. Okay, guess what is Spencer Rattler's completion percentage?
Mid-60s.
I'd say 70, 69, 68 and a half.
Right, like 68 and a half. Guess what Spencer Sanders is?
The same?
Yeah, I'm
just
guessing.
About.
Yeah.
67 point something. So he's not far off of what Spencer Rattler's doing. Now, listen, he's played in a lot less games. And the problem that Gabe hates is that he's got 3 interceptions to 5 touchdowns. So that ratio is not good, obviously. But I think they have a ton of problems up front, and everything you can talk about going wrong with their offense this year starts up front. That's not sexy. People don't like to hear that excuse, but they have really been decimated by injury up front.
Well, I think a similar situation, and I think Spencer Sanders has, he's had a bunch of people expect him to take some big leap this year. And I don't think he's taken a leap. I think what we've seen is about what we saw last year from him. So, I mean, the leap's not there. Now, I think an interesting case is Brock Purdy. Led the Big 12 in passing a year ago. All right, 27 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, I believe. And right now, I think he's like 10 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. And you can't blame that one on offensive line. He's got a running back that's already over 1,000 yards. Now, maybe they're not protecting great, but he has just been careless with the football. He's, to me, right now, quarterback-wise in the Big 12, I think even though Sanders didn't take that next step, at least not yet, I feel like Brock Purdy's the disappointment.
I think in some respects, but I think they had, Gabe, you correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they have 4 new offensive linemen this year?
Yeah, lost a ton of guys from last year.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know that's not sexy to blame the offensive line, but I think it's a reality. But the one thing that's I see in Brock Purdy is he reminds me of a kid that could get away with certain things in high school, and he is still doing those things. Like, he does stuff that I'm like, no, that doesn't work in the Big 12. I've seen Spencer Rattler do some of that this year, but that's expected. This is his first year playing. I think what frustrates me about that with Brock Purdy is this is his 3rd year as a starter. He shouldn't be doing these things. He knows better. And, listen, it's easy for us to sit and criticize. We don't have a rush in our face, but I agree. I thought that we just keep assuming these kids will take a step forward. I think this is a really bizarre year that kids are just trying to maintain and keep their head above water. I think COVID was hard. I think being away from practice in spring and getting a real experience, I don't think anything's normal for these kids right now. And so I don't think it's a normal year where we would have seen kids take a huge leap forward. I think in almost every case, every team that I've seen in person, they're the same or worse. Like, it's just reality, except for Boston College. They've taken a big step forward. That team is much better than last year.
You were just in Austin for Texas, West Virginia, and Texas gets that win, and you look at the Big 12 race, and the Longhorns all of a sudden kind of controlled their own destiny. They still have K-State. They still have Iowa State. So what did you see when you were watching Texas? Because it seems like they're playing a little better defensively. Ellinger didn't look great, but maybe they found their guy at running back in Bijan Robinson. Just what did you think of seeing the Longhorns in person?
So I don't want to offend anyone on the Oklahoma breakdown, because I know this is an Oklahoma show, but if you were to line up the Sooners and line up the Longhorns, I think on the hoof, the Longhorns look better. Like, I don't know what you guys thought from being there in person and seeing them during I know you were there on the field, Gabe, during that Cotton Bowl Red River shootout, but I think Texas looks good. They have guys. I mean, they have talent. I think they're probably missing some high-end wide receivers right now. I think they lost a lot last year, and they are small at wide receiver. I remember looking at their wide receivers as they walked out onto the field one time, and I was like, they're missing like 3 6'2" guys that can go out there and be a mismatch problem with shorter DBs in this conference. But they look good. I mean, they've got guys. Now it's just getting those guys to play to their capability. And I wouldn't be shocked. Like, I really think Iowa State is going to make it, because I think they're a good team, and I do believe in Breece Hall and what he brings to the table and that defense. I think Jaquan Bailey is a guy that we're not talking about enough in this conference, me included. He impacts games in so many ways. But I wouldn't be shocked if it's Texas-Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game and it's another knockdown dragout. I mean, Oklahoma won that game in 4 overtimes by the skin of their teeth, and that could go any way. Like, Texas is just on the brink, on the edge of getting it together. I don't know if they will. I think that Sam Ehlinger might be more banged up than they're letting on, but they have a bye week to get things right, and we'll see how they close out the season.
I laugh that, everyone is, already fired Tom Herman and they're on to something else. But Texas is 2 plays away from being undefeated right now. You hold on to the football going into the end zone there against TCU. And I think if they go for 2 against Oklahoma, they probably win that game there at the end. So they're 2 plays away. But you touched on something earlier I want to circle back to, talking about the pandemic and how it stunted the growth of some of these players and these teams. And just from your experience talking to players and talking to coaches, because we all talk about the players and how hard it is for those guys. And yes, it is, but the coaches and what they've been through in putting in all this work and then missing games and then canceling games and your starters are out, like who's handling it the best and who's handling it the worst between the players and the coaches?
Ooh, that is such a great question. The kids I've talked to, what's really hard for players is they are lacking, and I feel it a little bit with my own football crew, lacking this human connection and this energy you get from being around other people. So you have to be pretty isolated, and you aren't hanging out and being social and doing team meals and team dinners. There is this isolation to college football this season that is weird. And, it's like I show up at a game and I haven't seen anybody on my crew in person. I've gone several weeks and not seen my analyst, Greg McElroy, in person because he's up in the booth. And Joe Tessitore, our play-by-play guy. So I feel this void of human connection and the energy that you normally get interacting with each other. That's real for the teams. I think it is absolutely real for the teams. And you guys have both been in locker rooms, and you know how it is when it's fun and it's you get better together. And with your time being so limited where you can actually be together, I just think it's really hard.
Okay, so this week has been a rough week, right, for game cancellations. Are you worried at all? Because we've talked about it a lot. Are you worried at all about this season finishing out? Do you think that maybe they're going to have to push some dates back when it comes to the college football playoff? You know the TV side way better than I do from that standpoint. Like, could we see some things have to get pushed? Or do you think that these teams are just going to keep working through all these disruptions?
I think it's both things. I think teams are going to try to continue working through these disruptions, but I think that things could really go wrong. So what if we get to the week of the SEC championship game and they have to cancel that because teams have COVID issues? Like think about that. We've seen 4 SEC teams cancel games this week. What if we get to the Big Ten championship game and that game is postponed or canceled? I just think there's so many scenarios.
Game. Like they have
Absolutely.
to have an alternate team if someone has to pull out?
We haven't even talked about that. That's a great call. I literally haven't even thought about that, Teddy. That's a great call. What are we going to do if a playoff game is canceled? And so I feel like we're holding firm to these dates, and we have to for January 1st and 11th, because I know in my ESPN world, like come hell or high water, they're moving off those dates because buildings are reserved. So much goes around these college football playoffs. So I doubt they would move off of those dates, but that could mean teams are disqualified because they can't play. Like, let's just play this scenario out. What if a team can't play the Big Ten championship game? And so the third place team gets to take over because that team can't go. We could see an Ohio State or a Wisconsin or somebody disqualified in some bizarre way. I mean, I just think anything's possible. And I don't want to be that alarmist, but this week has shaken me a little bit. We have a lot of big games canceled, and I think we're in for a bumpy ride just because the rise of the virus in all of these communities is significant.
I'll tell you what's interesting. If we have a college football playoff team that can't go and someone else gets to fill in, I honestly think that the college football would take that in stride. Like, right now, we've got how many games postponed or canceled this weekend? 6, 8?
At least 6.
Up to
6 or 8
now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, well, we'll watch the Masters. Last year, if you would have talked about 8 games being canceled, Alabama, LSU being canceled, it would have been like mass hysteria. No one would have even known what to do. But now it's like, oh, okay, well, let's watch, whoever else that weekend. It's like, what we have grown accustomed to this year is like amazing. And that's what I'm saying. Like college football playoff would be like, oh, well, too bad Ohio State. I guess we're on to Oregon or whoever else. It's been weird that way that we've taken it all in stride once we got going.
You know, it's such a great call that you said that, because in the real world, how we used to think, if Alabama LSU got postponed, this has been the game of the year in the SEC for ever since Nick Saban got to Alabama. What's that, 15 years, 13 years? So I think it is bizarre that we're just kind of taking it in stride. Like, that is bizarre. You are absolutely right. Like, oh yeah, okay, Alabama, LSU, it's canceled. Let's, what else? When are they can they reschedule? Okay, whatever. It's epic. It's huge. It's a big deal. But this year, I think what we've learned is nothing's normal. And the more we expect normal, the more disappointed we'll be in life. So keep it in stride. We're going to go to the games and play the games we can. And that's all we can do.
Yeah. Now, Holly, I do think that, what has happened this week has stressed some college football fans out. So I'm trying to bring some positivity to this episode in particular.
Did you bring wine? Is that what you? Is that what you're?
Well, I always have wine. I always have wine on my person. It's never too far away. But I did want you to share the prayer circle story that you told me earlier this week, because I just think that it'll be good for some people to hear, and I just thought it was really cool.
Okay. Teddy, bear with me, because you're going to think this is weird, but it was really precious. So I did a speaking engagement this week in a town called Anniston, Alabama. And as I was driving there, I was like, Holly, what are you doing? It's a pandemic. Why are you doing a speaking engagement? And I had, kind of a negative attitude, like, what are you doing? So I get there, and it's a small community. There's about 80 people, and it was lovely, just very sweet, kind, nice people. So at the end of my speech, they have a period of Q&A, and a few people ask questions. We go along, and this man stands up, and his voice is wavering, and he's really shy about it. And he said, never done this before, and I can't believe I'm saying this in public, but God's put it on my heart, and I just have a feeling that I need to pray over you. And would you allow me to pray over you? And, the whole room kind of is looking around like, what? Because it's very out of character for this man, and nothing like this has ever happened before at this touchdown club. We're talking football. So I walk up and I stand in the center of the room, and they pray over me. He says a prayer, and everyone bows their head and they pray over me. And it's just beautiful. And I start crying, and he just blesses me. So the next morning, I'm driving to my next speaking engagement, and my phone rings. And, I kind of wondered, like, I wonder what's in store for me. Like, why is God putting that on him? Why is he worried about me? And I get a phone call from my oncologist, and I had just had my scans in New York City, but I didn't know the results yet. And I'd been really stressed about it, because it was the first time I'd gone 6 months without a scan to see if my cancer had returned. And the oncologist called to tell me that my scans were clear. And I just thought it was really special, because that man in Anniston, Alabama didn't know that I'd had scans, didn't know how scared and stressed out I've been about what's happening inside my body. And just having strangers pray over you, it was really special and strange and wonderful. And I thank them greatly.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool, man. That's amazing. I love it.
We need more stories like that in 2020.
Yes, we do. Wow. That's cool.
Oh, it was refreshing to hear the story again. It's still, it makes me happy. It's just like, we've had such a long year. There's been such high highs and low lows, and just hearing stuff like that, it puts people in a good mood. I know it puts me in a damn good mood when you tell that story. So, Holly Rowe, you are the best. You are one of my favorite people on the planet, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I've been secretly, wanting to be on this show for a long time. I listen a lot. I'm proud of you guys for launching this podcast. I try to retweet you and support you every chance I get. Teddy, I guess you're okay. So I guess I'll quit feeling jealous that you get to do a show with Gabe twice a week. But
I got bad news for you, though. You did so good. Gabe's going to be bugging you to come back on, and you're going to be busy, and you're going to have a ton of stuff to do, and he's going to keep hitting you up.
In the off season,
whenever you do such a good performance.
In the
Hey,
off season?
Joe, I'm here. You got me. Joe Castiglione once told me that I earned an honorary letter from Oklahoma. He literally said that to me because I've covered so many Oklahoma events, whether it's gymnastics, softball, women's basketball, men's basketball, football. So I think that I could be part of your Oklahoma breakdown. Anytime you need me, I'm here for you.
Love it.
Be careful what you say. Thanks, Holly.
Thanks, guys.
Well, that was a good interview.
Loved it. Loved it. Hit all. I mean, we covered everything in the Big 12. We covered all kinds of stuff. That was great.
What do you think it's like having that many people like you? Well, people kind of like, I think it's been documented this year that people really like you, Teddy, especially in
me?
Lubbock.
Oh, well, right. Other than my family, I think I can count the people that like me, and I'm not even sure about my family. I'm just defaulting them. I can count the people that like me on one hand. I mean, I have no idea what it's like to be as loved, as adored as her. It's kudos to her. Great job. And deserved.
Yeah, must be nice. Must be nice, but she's also pretty great, so I guess she deserves it. All right, Ted, let's move on to the National College Football Roundup. That's brought to you by Insurica. Do you own a business? If you do, you need Insurica in your life. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica is able to customize programs by accessing the latest information from many insurance carriers. They compare and contrast coverage offerings and pricing in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. Insurica's clients become best-in-class businesses by working with Insurica's team of advisors to manage risk. Purchasing insurance is only one way to protect your business. Best-in-class businesses win by avoiding a loss in the first place. If your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and take back control of your total cost of risk. I'm an Insurica client, and you should be too. If your business wants to be best in class, connect with Insurica at insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com. Okay, few pieces of college football news. We talked about it with Holly, but 4 of the 7 games in the SEC have been postponed. Georgia, Missouri, Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M, Tennessee, and Auburn, Mississippi State. And Teddy, the SEC is running into a bit of an issue, right? And you look at LSU in particular. They've already had a game postponed. They are supposed to play Florida on December 12th. So they cannot play Alabama then. And everyone is anticipating Alabama playing in the SEC championship game. Now, Greg Sankey talked about it a little bit today, and I think they may be flexible with prioritizing games that will dictate what happens in these divisional races in the SEC. But things are getting a little iffy down there.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. You know, you put in a couple of bye weeks there to hopefully move some things around if teams miss games early on. You didn't expect teams to miss games early on, play, and then miss games late. You hope that you'd be able to figure it out. And that's interesting with LSU. You know, you remember when they got shut down early on, you know, and I'm talking about way back whenever they first reported back to school and they had to shut down their off-season workout program. Like, all that was mainly for contact tracing. You know, it kind of makes you wonder a little bit, like, had that not been shut down and some of those guys, you know, got the virus, that would they not have to be hammered so bad so late? But I don't know. It's too late to worry about any of that stuff. I just hope that they're able to finish this thing out and come to a decent conclusion in the SEC, because it was really starting to heat up with a bunch of really good football games coming up down the stretch. And here's the thing, man, and we saw this from Wisconsin, although the Big Ten protocols are a little bit more difficult. Like, once it hits you, because of the time that guys have to stay quarantined or have to have for the virus to pass, I mean, it's not necessarily just a 1-week deal. I mean,
right.
This could hit you for 2 or even 3 weeks.
Yeah. hopefully it doesn't happen. Now, there's probably some people in that LSU program that aren't terribly upset
No
that they're
doubt.
not playing Bama this weekend, because I don't
No
think that was
doubt.
going to go well for the Tigers.
No, they have been. I guess Miles Brennan's done for the season. He's not going to come back, so it's not been a good year for them. Which no one expected them to be anywhere close to what they were last year, but I don't think we expected what we've seen so far.
Yeah. Okay. One other piece of news: Ohio State, Maryland has been canceled due to a COVID issue with Maryland, and I did not misspeak. It's canceled, not postponed. Remember, the way that the Big Ten's doing things without bye weeks, that game is gone. Poof. And it gets Ohio State in an interesting position, because remember, this is an issue with Maryland, right? So you're dropping this game. And we've already seen this with Wisconsin, right? Wisconsin is living dangerously now. They had to miss the 2 games because of their COVID issues. And now they're kind of at the mercy of their opponents, right? When it talked about getting to that 6-game threshold that the Big Ten has, made part of the rules for qualifying for the Big Ten championship game. What happens if something happens to Ohio State? That is now my big fear with this game being canceled, because I think we'd all agree, right? Ohio State's one of the best teams in the country. They are fun to watch. But now this is kind of a slippery slope for Ryan Day and his group, because this one was canceled because of Maryland. They cannot have a COVID issue in that locker room, because then they will be flirting with not playing enough games to qualify. And then I don't know what happens in the Big Ten. Then all hell breaks loose.
Indiana, baby. Here we go. Big Ten championship. There may not be anyone left to play Indiana by the end of this thing. And, obviously we all joked and, whenever the Big Ten announced their plan of coming back, that you're setting yourselves up to fail by waiting so long to come back and then having your protocols so difficult that once you do have an issue, to be able to get back out on the field. And they're living that out right now. I just hope that, for everyone's sake, that these teams can get this thing passed, get it handled. And, if worst comes to worst, they're going to have to go out on the field with not a very deep roster at all. They're going to be marching out there incredibly thin at a bunch of different positions, and maybe have guys playing out of position.
Yeah. One other quick note: Journey Brown, the running back from Penn State, that, it looked like he was going to miss the year. Turns out he goes and gets a second opinion. He is going to have to stop playing football because of a heart issue. And I just hate it for that kid, because this is a guy that I've had some conversations. When that happened, I reached out to some guys that, cover the NFL draft, film junkies, right? Guys that have worked in front offices, and some guys had a first-round grade on this guy.
Oof.
And when I saw that news today, and he put something out there on Twitter, and football's not everything, right? But when a guy that has that type of talent, could have been a first-round, second-round draft pick, could have made life-altering money, it's not everything, but it sucks, man. I feel terrible for that kid.
Yeah, that's brutal. It's not everything, but whenever you're 21 years old, 22 years old, and it's all you've ever done, it's hard to realize that it's not everything. It's like whenever someone says it's not everything, you're like, wait a second, what are you talking about? Yes, it is everything. That's everything that I've always done. So I hate that for the guy, but hey, he's at a great school, and he's already got a good start to life there. So hopefully he figures out something that he's talented at.
Yeah. Journey Brown, may I interest you in a random man in, what'd she say, Anniston, Alabama?
Right. Yes. There you go.
He's got a hell of a prayer circle. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
And you know what? I know you never know. I mean, we were kind of told the same thing about Max Duggan, that he may never play football again, and he missed like 3 weeks, so.
And he's out there running for 80-yard touchdowns like a blur.
I know. First, he's never going to play again, and then he's going to have surgery that's, he's going to miss the whole year. And then it's like, no, we'll just take a little laser in there and fix this thing. He'll be back by next week. It's amazing the things that can happen. So, I don't know. Hopefully there's a situation like that for him.
Yeah, we can only hope, but it doesn't sound like from the letter he put, kind of the thing he pinned, he's retiring due to a heart condition, and we wish Journey Brown the absolute best. All right, Ted, let's preview some of the games this weekend. And to say it's not the best slate we've ever seen is a bit of an understatement. It's okay, people. It's not great. It's not great, but let's touch on just a couple of them. So we've got number 13, Wisconsin. Hey, they're back, and they are going to Michigan. And the big question about this football game, Ted, is Graham Mertz going to play? Because it doesn't sound like he's back on the practice field yet. He is still in the protocol. And now when you look at the timeline, he should be able to play in the game on Saturday, but what, does he just get to practice for like 1 or 2 days and then play in the game? Like, how bad is Vanden Boom, right?
I had a little birdie tell me that Mertz is starting on Saturday. So there you go. He's going to start. Now, how polished is he going to be after having to sit out so long? I don't know, but he's going to start in the football game. They missed 8 days of practice over this whole ordeal. Started back on Friday, and they feel like they're in pretty good shape. And mainly it was some attrition at some other positions, like kind of depth issues and stuff like that. So they feel pretty good about where they're at now. They've only played 1 game, so it's hard to say. Was that just 1 game? We came out, everything clicked. Illinois, wasn't ready to play, or are they a legit football team that's going to go pound Michigan in Ann Arbor? I don't know. I can't tell you. I know Mertz looked great in that Friday night matchup when he dropped 5 touchdowns, something crazy like that. And he's got some gunslinger to him. He'll take some chances, but I think Wisconsin feels pretty good about where they sit with their football team.
The most 2020 thing ever would be for Michigan to just thump Wisconsin in this game.
I know it. I mean, nothing would shock me. No result would shock me because, here's the thing. Michigan looked pretty daggum good in their opener. Right? Milton looked good. Their defense was all over the place. And then whatever happened from there, I can't tell you what, when, where, why, or how, but it all went bad. So I would take Wisconsin in this deal. I feel like there's got to be some a little bit of Harbaugh losing that locker room some, right, with the way things have gone.
You would think,
this is kind of like the last stand for them.
When you look at that game against Indiana, like, Indiana led the entire football game. Like, it wasn't one of those games where Indiana beats Michigan and some weird things happened. No, it was a thorough ass kicking.
Right.
From when they kicked the ball off to when the final horn sounded, like it was not even really close.
Yeah. Look out whenever you give a team like Indiana. They've got some talent on that squad. Look out whenever all of a sudden you get a little bit of confidence.
Yeah, and they'll be trying to stay undefeated. And I 100% forgot that Holly she's in Detroit covering that game, and I didn't even ask her about Indiana because I'm a moron. But I do like the Hoosiers against the Spartans in that game. I think Mel Tucker in that group still trying to figure some things out.
They did bounce back and look all right.
Yeah, no doubt. But we've got an interesting one with Arkansas traveling to number 6 Florida, and I am labeling this as the Felipe Franks revenge game. Now, there's another interesting wrinkle to this, right? No Sam Pittman on the sidelines for the Razorbacks. He tested positive for COVID-19, cannot be on the sidelines for his team on Saturday. And then we did see Kyle Pitts take that massive shot. And I cannot imagine he plays in this football game. And I don't think that offense is nearly as potent without that guy. I really don't. So with what we've seen from Arkansas, with how scrappy they've been, like, I wouldn't be shocked if this game is a little closer than people may think it'll be.
Yeah, I mean, Florida, they just kind of have that feeling, right, that when everything's going good, they're really good, but in no way are they bulletproof. Like Alabama or Ohio State, if the offense isn't clicking, you feel like they're so good defensively that they're going to be able to hang around, and there's going to be enough time for their offense to finally get it in gear, and their defenses will help that in give them time or make some big plays, get them some turnovers. With Florida, I mean, they're not one of those bulletproof teams, and you feel like if Arkansas can get some things going and play some good defense, force some turnovers, have a couple of bounces go their way, that they could be right there in the end. I mean, I'll take Florida in this one, and it's one of those where it could either be a close game where Arkansas's hanging around at the end, or Florida absolutely just routs them. I mean, I don't know. I don't see Arkansas winning the game, though.
Yeah, I don't either. I think that Florida's playing some good football right now, but I do think that Arkansas is a tough out. I mean, they've got those kids playing hard. That's a physical team. That defense has got some really talented players. So we'll see. Okay, Ted, another game. Number 2, Notre Dame is in the classic letdown spot, right? Playing Boston College, and it's the red bandana game for Boston College. So they tend to be pretty feisty when that whole deal is going on. And that's a great story about Wells Crowther. If you don't know about the red bandana game, give it a Google. It's really, really, really cool, but kind of a dangerous spot for the Irish, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like of all the teams that are kind of up there in the running, that Notre Dame is the most vulnerable. We've seen them offensively just not be able to get anything done, really stall out, have a hard time scoring points. I mean, I think they've got a lot of really good players and feel like they're kind of starting to hit their stride. But I mean, it's a decent Boston College team. They're 5-3 right now. They lost a really tight one to North Carolina earlier in the year. Now, the Shockers, the Virginia Tech game, they got blown out there, but they almost won that Clemson game. They were up on Clemson for a good portion of that football game. So this is a game Boston College team. I mean, I'll take Notre Dame to win. I feel like they're gonna be focused. Their their head coach is not one that typically lets stuff fly. He's kind of a bit of a hard ass. So I think he's going to be on those guys for no let up. But it is a fascinating one. Don't you think of all the teams kind of right there vying for a playoff that Notre Dame's the one that you feel like would be most likely for a hiccup?
Yeah, with some of the performances they had early in the year, right? You mentioned kind of their inability to score points at times. Now,
what was it? Would they put up like 12 against Louisville or something like that?
Yeah, and I think you probably gain a ton of confidence, right, with that Clemson win. But it is the Phil Jerkovic revenge game, right? That quarterback, he's been pretty good. I mean, Jerkovic's been pretty good for Boston College. So we'll see, but a dangerous spot for Brian Kelly in that Fighting Irish squad after a massive win some other interesting games. I guess what? Number 19 SMU going to Tulsa to take on the Golden Hurricane. And Teddy, remember, and this happened with the K-State West Virginia game, remember? Where we looked at the line and we were like, wait, huh?
Right.
And Tulsa is favored by 2.5 at home against SMU. And I hope Tulsa wins. I want them to win. Clearly, that would be tremendous. That would be awesome. But SMU's played so many more games. Like Shea Buechele, that offense, they've been throwing it all around. Now I know that SMU's not undefeated anymore or anything like that, but Tulsa's favored by 2.5.
I mean, Tulsa is 3-1 right now. They got that big win against Central Florida. That was great. Owned that football game. And honestly, should have beat Oklahoma State early on. Now, whenever we first saw that game, it's like, Oklahoma State's terrible. Well, it turns out that Tulsa's actually a pretty good football team. So I don't know, man. With all the postponed games that they've had, it's been hard for them to get in any rhythm, have any continuity. So, I mean, I'll take SMU to win, but, I mean, I clearly want Tulsa to win. Maybe they win this football game, man. I don't know.
That's the best way to put it. I don't know. Like, what's Zach Smith going to do? I don't know. We'll see.
I like Tulsa's defense. I think their defense is pretty stout. Now, SMU can obviously throw the football all over the field, but I mean, Central Florida's got one of the best offenses in all of college football like the last 3 or 4 years, and they didn't have any problem. I mean, they gave up some points to Central Florida, but it's not like they looked out of place against that high power of an offense. So, hey, maybe Tulsa does win this thing. I was shocked to see them favored by 2.5, though.
Yeah. I hope they win. I'm going to watch that game.
I know I say it all the time, but that is a hell of a conference. That is a great conference with good coaches, good talent, and really fun competitive football games.
I completely agree. I mean, the American has been a ton of fun this year, and it's only going to get better, right, with things winding down with Cincinnati. So should be interesting. Okay, now follow me on this because there is one game that has my attention. And it does not sound like a sexy football game until you kind of take a deeper dive into it. Northwestern at Purdue. Yes, I said it. Northwestern at Purdue. Teddy, this feels like a game that should kick off at 11 a.m. Central Time, and everyone looks freezing in the stands. It's one of those Big Ten games. But didn't you realize this one's got pretty big implications in the Big Ten West? Peyton Ramsey playing some decent football for Northwestern. Oh, yeah, and Northwestern's undefeated. They're 3-0. Purdue is 2-0. Now, they've also got – Purdue does. They've got one of the best wide receivers in all of college football that people have probably never heard of. That kid's name is David Bell. He is a player.
Oh, so it is a – I thought it was going to – when you said Northwestern or Purdue, I thought it was like maybe a debate matchup or something. Those actual football. You're talking about the football game. Okay.
I'm talking about nerds playing nerds, Teddy. But just hear me out. With Wisconsin's situation being so fragile, remember, if something happens to Wisconsin, someone else is going to be the representative out of the Big Ten West. Like, I think Wisconsin's the best team in that division, but this game could end up being huge in the Big Ten race. And it's not like we haven't seen Pat Fitzgerald get his group to the Big Ten championship game before. So I'm keeping an eye on this. What should we call it? The Battle of the Nerds?
Yeah. I mean, that's as good as any.
Are Purdue – I know Purdue's a really good school, like engineering school, all that stuff, but I feel like Battle of the Nerds has to have Stanford in it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, it's the battle of the alternates, I guess, you know? I mean, whoever wins could be the alternate for the Big Ten championship game. I mean, there you go. No, but Perfect. That is interesting, and there's there's a lot of games this year that because of the year, because of how weird everything's been, that maybe it's not your typical big names in college football, but because of the way things have unfolded, I mean, and that I think like the top of college football isn't as good because of the lack of practice. So I think everyone's a little bit closer together, a little more competitive this year. And it's been one of the more unpredictable years we've seen.
Yeah. All right, Ted, let's move on to our segments, and let's start with our winners and losers of the week. And Teddy's winners and losers are brought to you by Advanced Weight Loss Clinic of Sand Springs. They'll help you execute a realistic and achievable weight loss plan designed for you and only you. They've got all kinds of treatments for men and women. Their licensed and trained experts combine diet and exercise with hormone therapies to maximize your results. If you're struggling with low libido or low energy, Advanced Weight Loss Clinic at Sand Springs can help with that too. They also offer Botox and fillers. To get on the path to losing weight, call 918-241-LOSE or visit their Facebook page. If you mention the podcast, you will get a free fat burner injection. All right, Ted, who do you have as your winner of the week?
Golf fans, we got the Masters in November. It's the greatest thing ever, and it lines up with an off week, bye week, idle week, whatever the heck you want to call it for Oklahoma. The timing could not have been better. And just a little bit of a tease, Gabe Ikard, to get your blood pumping on the Masters. Did you see that hole-in-one by John Rahm?
One of the most, okay, so people are like, that's the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen. One of the most infuriating clips I've ever watched. This dude can bounce it across the damn water and get a hole-in-one and make it look so easy, and the rest of us are just out there struggling, trying to even just get the ball up in the air, and he skipped it across the water like the golf ball was walking on the damn water like he was Jesus or something, and I'm over there watching it going, ugh.
It's amazing.
It's incredible.
I mean, now, I will say, I have skipped a ball off of the pond on number 2 at the trails and got it to within about a foot of the pin. However, it was not on purpose. So, I mean, I will take it though. Whenever you hit a horrible shot and somehow you get a birdie out of it, I'll take it. But that was incredible. I mean, it would take me forever to even be able to blade one like that, to get it to skip even anywhere over the water. So I thought that was awesome. And just a little primer for what's to come this weekend.
It's going to be fantastic. And we're going to wet the beak with some Masters odds too, Teddy. So
yes.
I knew you'd want to do that. So that's coming for you, big guy. Don't worry. All right. Who do you have as your loser of the week?
Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson said in an interview today on the Rich Eisen show that their offense is too predictable, that defenses know what's coming. They're out there in the game, and defenses are calling out what's about to come up, what play they're about to run. And this is a amateur move to me from Lamar Jackson. I mean, on a national road, it's not like Rich. It's not like it's your buddy from back home's podcast, Rich Eisen show. You're essentially calling out your offensive coordinator that your offense is too simple, too predictable, and defenses know exactly what's coming. Well, I've got a little bit of a news flash. If your offense is predictable and simple and defenses know what's coming, it's typically because the quarterback can't handle anymore on his plate, right? So I am shocked that he would say something like this. I mean, the other thing is, like, these are professionals. What do you think those defensive guys do? You think, like, during the week of practice, they just sit over there and tackle each other, twiddle their thumbs? Like, they don't study your offense for however many hours a day and look at everything that you've done and try and put a game plan together? Yeah, they know what's coming. They've watched every single ball you've thrown all year. That's what defenses in the NFL do. I couldn't believe that he would say something like that well, I mean, I guess I shouldn't be all that shocked, but I thought it was a pretty bad move by Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, especially when Greg Roman is widely considered right now with what he's doing, with how diverse he's been with that scheme with them. Like, he's considered one of the best offensive coordinators in the league, probably. I mean, with the creativity. And I play for Giro, and it was like learning a new playbook every single week. I mean, it was difficult playing for him. But also, the Ravens are 6-2.
Right.
Like, it's not like they're like a terrible football team. Like, and Lamar Jackson, same guy. You won the MVP last year with that guy calling the plays.
Yeah. I think it's probably, I mean, Lamar Jackson's having a down year. He hasn't thrown for all that many yards. He's completing like 63% of his passes. I think he only has like 12. He's got 12 touchdowns, 4 interceptions on the year. I think that the production, and this happens in the NFL. We've seen guys like Lamar Jackson come in where the league catches up to them. They figure out, what they do. They have a little bit of a tail. He's probably more of a one-read type of guy than some of the other passers in the NFL. So defenses are really starting to dial in on what he does. But, I mean, I think he's just frustrated that his numbers aren't there. Like, they're 6-2. Like,
and their 2 losses are to the Chiefs and the Steelers.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I was fascinated by that. I don't know why he would do that. I don't know. Maybe they don't take. Maybe Greg Roman, would he take that as an insult?
G Rose, one of the weirdest dudes I've ever met. He's probably like, whatever.
He's probably,
yeah.
Maybe it was.
Well, I'm gonna keep calling the plays the same way. So, hey, how about you figure out how to throw the ball a little better?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was crazy.
Yeah, when you're the leader of the football team, that's definitely odd. All right, my winners and losers are brought to you by Sound Advice. A lot of us are watching our favorite football teams from home this year, which is why you need to get ready for game day with a home theater system from our friends at Sound Advice. Sound Advice can customize your home entertainment system indoors or outdoors. Sound Advice did the Wi-Fi network and all the audio visual at my new house, and it is awesome. They hide all the wires in the cable boxes so it looks great, and I can control every TV in my house from my phone, and my internet has been flawless. My internet issues are not Sound Advice issues. I want to make that very clear. For the best home theater system in the Oklahoma City area, call Sound Advice at 405-549-3880 or visit soundadviceokc.com. All right, to my winner of the week. Now, I thought about going with vegans. Yeah, you heard me. Vegans. Because McDonald's comes out and says they are getting into the plant-based food game. And I think they're calling it McPlant, which is hilarious. But
can we get over the every single food that they come out with, they're going to name it something like the McRib or
they've got their formula and they're sticking to it, man. But
can't you just imagine that meeting, that creative meeting where everyone's sitting around, okay, what can we call it? And they settle on the McPlant, whatever. What are we even doing?
See, that's why I didn't make it my winner of the week, because I knew that would lead to some interesting conversations with you. I know how you feel about the vegans. So I'm going to go with the feel-good story. And once again, I feel like we need some positivity right now with some of the things that have been going on. And my winner of the week, Buffalo Bills fans, because Josh Allen, their starting quarterback, who is playing some pretty damn good football for them.
He is.
His grandmother passed away, right? Very close to his grandmother. And Bills fans donated to Oshai Children's Hospital. And the hospital created a button on the website, right? So they're donating in Josh Allen's grandmother's honor, right? And they created this little button where you could just hammer it. It was $17, right? He's number 17. And, well, Bills fans smashed that thing, because currently that children's hospital has raised more than $300,000 from this campaign.
Wow. That's impressive.
That is, now the Bills have done stuff like this before, right? and it is great, but that was just such a cool story for me. I was just like, you know what? That's really cool. Way to go, Bills fans. I was a member of that organization twice, and those people were great, but donating that amount of money because your quarterback lost his grandma to a great cause, right, to Children's Hospital, that is the content I crave.
Just when you think that Bills fans are the lowest denominator of society, whether it's, the Bills Mafia jumping off of stuff and trying to kill each other in the parking lot.
Set each other on fire every once in a while.
Set each other on fire, passed out drunk, fights in the stands, throwing sex toys onto the field of play. Just whenever you think that a fan base could not be any worse, they go and do something like this and totally redeem themselves. Hats off. That's awesome stuff. That's over 17,500 donations of $17. That's awesome.
Look at you and your math. I thought this was
Calculator.
a no math podcast. God, look at the big brain on you.
Calculator. No, I cannot take credit for that.
All right, my loser of the week. Now, I thought about going with the Houston Rockets because it doesn't sound like Harden is very happy, and Shams comes out with the report, right? Westbrook wants out of Houston. So,
I mean, it depends how you look at it. I mean, they're about to free up about $80 million in contracts from those two guys.
yeah,
Like, if
and
I'm the owner, it's like,
needs –
if I'm not going to win it, then, fine.
and it sounds like Tillman Fertitta needs all the financial help he can get with what's going on with the restaurant industry right now. But so I was going to go with them, but then I saw something and I was like, those are the losers of the week. And it's got to be Christian McCaffrey owners in fantasy football because he got hurt late in that game against the Chiefs. By the way, that was a great game, but sounds like it's an AC joint, dead in the shoulder. Sounds like he's unlikely to play this weekend against the Bucks. He has already missed those 6 games earlier in the season with the ankle. Just has to be heartbreaking for fantasy football people that have Christian McCaffrey. Now, we don't talk a lot of fantasy football on here, but this guy, he hasn't missed a single game. Hadn't missed a single game in his first 3 seasons. And now this is going to be his 7th missed game of the year. If only there was someone I knew that had Christian McCaffrey in fantasy football.
It's just, it infuriates the hell out of me. I mean, I'm struggling to survive. I mean, every week I'm releasing and claiming off waivers and trying to find any running back out there that could do anything, just waiting for the fake ankle sprain to finally go away to where he can come back and oh, wow. What do you know? We're actually winning some games. Maybe we don't just need to tank and have Christian McCaffrey with a phantom ankle injury miss 8.5 weeks or however long it was. Oh, now we'll miss with a phantom shoulder injury. I saw him on the sideline. The guy's fine again. He was fine again. God, it makes me so mad. It's unbelievable.
Oh, that's weird.
You can play with an AC. I played an entire season with a 3rd-degree AC. Get out there and do it. How much is he making? Like $15 million a year or more than that? God.
Oh, yeah. I forgot you had him on your fantasy football team. That's my bad.
I mean, the one year I get the first pick overall, I picked Christian McCaffrey. Here we go, baby. Let's go. Let's do this. Right out of the gate, he's great, and then just not even real injuries, man. Conspiracy theory.
Well,
not even real.
I can't add anything to that to make it any better, so we're going to move on. All right, Ted, let's wet the beak. Wet the Beak is brought to you by Tim Hughes Custom Homes. Are you looking to build your dream home? If so, Tim Hughes is the man you're looking for. Tim Hughes Custom Homes is a one-stop shop for all of your home building needs. He can find you a lot. He can find you an architect. He'll find you financing. And of course, he can build your dream home exactly the way you want it. Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, Tim found my wife and me a lot. He found us an architect and built our new house. Tim and his team were so easy to work with. He's still helping us with when we have questions about things around the house. He's also built several office buildings. So if your business is looking to build a custom office, Tim Hughes is your man. You can see Tim's custom builds throughout Gaillardia, Nichols Hills, Oak Tree, Stone Mill, and Rose Creek. It is a great time to build the house of your dreams. For more information and to see Tim's spectacular work, visit his Instagram page at Tim Hughes Custom Homes or visit timhughescustomhomes.com. All right, Ted, a tradition unlike any other. The Masters is this week and weekend, and this is going to be unlike any Masters we've ever seen, right? Instead of the first major of the year, it's the last. The course looks beautiful with the fall foliage, but it's really weird seeing it without fans, and I can only imagine how weird of an atmosphere that's going to be for the golfers. But when you're talking about the course, it sounds like the weather is going to be pretty terrible throughout the entire week, right? They got a ton of rain today. They're supposed to get rain the rest of the week, and we'll see what that does to the conditions of a course that is already obviously very challenging. But I've heard some guys talk about, hey, they're starting to see some browning on the greens. What could that mean for how guys approach some of those things? But with that forecast, this thing could get really, really interesting. And here's a look at the odds. We've got DeChambeau at 8-1, Dustin Johnson at 9-1, John Rahm, who had that amazing holding one that you talked about, he's 11-1, Justin Thomas 12-1, Rory 14-1, Xander Schauffele 14-1, Koepka is 16-1, and then Oklahoma State's own Matthew Wolff in his first Masters 33-1. He's actually got better odds than Tiger, who is 35-1. And then Jordan Spieth is 40-1. And you can see, I believe, Ricky Fowler 66-1. So I know you're our golf guy, but it seems like the number one question about this tournament is, can Augusta National handle beefy Bryson?
Right. And I don't know. I would think that the rain is not a good thing for Bryson. Let's be honest. Whenever he says he swings as hard as he possibly can at it. Whenever that happens, if you're hitting it straight, that's fantastic. But if you start to spray it a little bit, that could be a disaster. And especially if you're going to get into some rough where it's wet and it's just spinachy and you can't get the ball out of there. You can't get any spin or any bite on it at all. So I would think that the rain is going to hurt DeChambeau quite a bit. I'm not going to take him. I mean, I know he's hitting the ball a million miles, but it's not like he's winning every single tournament out there. He's played well, and he can putt. I think this tournament's more about how well you putt than anything. So I do think that he's got a shot if he can, put 4 days together, hitting it straight with the driver. He's got as good a shot as anyone. My pick is, and it's probably stupid, but I like Rory McIlroy at 14-1. I think those are good odds, good numbers. You get good value there. He hits it a million miles too. If he can get the putter together, I mean, he plays this course really well. I like Rory. I like Wolff. I think if anyone is just confident enough to go out there in their first Masters and win the dadgum thing, it would be Matthew Wolff. He's playing really good golf right now. So I would put him on my list as and those are great odds. 33-1, really good value there with him. And then I know he's the second favorite, but Dustin Johnson, if he can just stay away from the booze and not fall down the stairs, I think he's got a shot at this one. He hits it long. He plays that fade quite a bit. Good putter. He's putted really well here recently. So I would take Justin Johnson too.
So I like Matthew Wolff. And the reason I talked to Alan Bratton today over on my Sirius show. We were talking to him, and he said there's something interesting about the way that Wolff drives the golf ball is with the rainy conditions. He says Matthew Wolff, his ball really doesn't roll out. Like he hits, I mean, he gets great distance, but it's all in the air. It's all carry. So he was like, the weather's not going to matter to him because he's mostly all carry anyways off the tee. So I was like, that's a nice little nugget to know. So I'm going to sprinkle that down. So you look at 33-1. I wonder what he is to finish in the top 10, but also a guy that I've heard a lot of people like to do well this week. Webb Simpson, also 33-1. So playing some good golf. So just, I think everyone is curious what DeChambeau's going to do. Clearly, Tiger, we all want him to be a factor, but this isn't like last year where he was playing really well and, had a couple top 10s heading into this event. And I know it's completely different time of year and it's, COVID 2020. So, but I just don't think that he's at the level he was coming into Augusta. Now I hope I'm wrong because golf is better when Tiger Woods is in it. But we also, it would be kind of fun to see a rookie win, like a first-timer, right? And it hasn't happened since 1979. And I guess that's the only time it's happened. The guy's name is Fuzzy Zeller?
That's right.
Fuzzy Zeller?
Yeah.
1979.
I mean, it's Morikawa and Wolff. I mean, those two guys have played as good as golf as anyone really down the stretch. I mean, they've been great. So I mean, I would say this year there's a good chance at it. I like both those guys. I love Wolff's odds at 33-1. That's great value for a guy that, can score with anyone, and he's a confident player, man. He could go out there and do it.
Well, he finished in the top 4 of his first 2 majors. He was tied for 4th at the PGA and then finished second at the U.S. Open when, Beefy Bryson walked away from everybody. There
is no hesitancy in him at all about, do I belong here? Am I good enough to win the Masters? I mean, yeah, he believes it. And I mean, he's going to, my opinion, he's going to win one at some point. Why not your first one? Now, there are the guys that play that tournament a lot. I mean, that's why everyone feels like this is the best major for Tigers, because he knows that course so well. He understands it, the nuances of all the greens and stuff like that. So he will be behind him in some of that regard, but still, he's got the talent to do it.
Yeah. I hope Tiger does well.
I can't wait, baby. Let's go.
It's going to be, dude, we're going to drink so much this weekend just watching golf. It's like, oh, I'm just watching golf. Oh my gosh, I've already had 15 seltzers. Oops. Okay, let's finish up, Ted, with everyone's favorite segment. That's Keepin' It Local, where we highlight what's going on in the great state of Oklahoma. And that's brought to you by Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School. As schools are reopening in the fall, parents want to provide the best possible educational experience and spiritual development for their children. There's no better place for that than Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School. A 1-to-1 iPad setting makes McGuinness students fully prepared to continue high-level learning from home. A 12-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio guarantees no student is overlooked. In addition to athletic programs and clubs, Bishop McGuinness's college prep curriculum offers 22 AP courses. Financial aid is available. For more information, visit bmchs.org. Okay, Ted, the Thunder have their new coach. And it is Mark Daignault. Mark Daignault.
I think it's Daignault.
So this is the only question I have. Sam Presti, when they were introducing Coach Mark, he said Dagnall, like clear as day, Dagnall. And I was like, okay, that's easy. But then the Thunder put out a little press release and the phonetic spelling. And you know, as a broadcaster that has to read pronunciation guys for other teams' rosters, you know that the phonetic spelling is very helpful. But I have never seen this breakdown. And it just says DAYG in big letters, dash NALT in small letters. So
Dagnall?
see, that's why I think Sam Presti just said it wrong, because the Y wouldn't be there if it wasn't Dagnall, right? If it was Dagnall, it'd just be big DAG dash lowercase NALT, right?
I think they accidentally hit the Y whenever they were pushing the G, because I'm looking at it right here, and the spelling. Now this is Wikipedia, so take that with a grain of salt here. But it has DAG uppercase dash NOLT, Dagnall.
So we don't know how to say his name, is what you're telling me.
Isn't that's pretty common with Thunder players, right?
I know, but
How
like
long
this
have
is
we
the coach.
struggled with
Okay.
Roberson has been a struggle. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
definitely.
been a bunch of them.
But I just really wish they would have
Schroeder.
addressed this. Like immediately, the first thing that I'm going to call him Coach Mark for now, because you know how mad I get when people mispronounce my last name. So I'm going to call him Coach Mark for now. First of all, okay, there's my initial reaction was I saw the release and I was like, how do you say this guy's name? I need to figure it out as soon as possible. I have had several people tell me several different things, and I'm losing my damn mind, Teddy. But the interesting thing about Coach Mark is he's only 35 years old, which I know a lot of people saw that and they're like, wow, youth movement. Look at this. Like, whoa, look at Presti go. That's not what my initial thought was. My initial thought was, I wonder if me and Teddy can be friends with this guy. Huh?
Does he like Will and Wiley? I mean, the only way to know if he could be friends is he a seltzer guy? We can either group him in or eliminate him immediately.
That's an easy, hey, you're either in or you're out, Coach Mark. Dagnall. Gosh, I wish I knew how to say his name. But it is an interesting hire, and this guy's got a really interesting background, right? UConn grad, which if they win games, he will immediately go above Dan Orlovsky in my UConn guy rankings. Sorry, Dan. But he was an assistant on Billy Donovan's staff last year, obviously. And then before that, he was the head coach of the OKC Blue, the G League team for the Thunder for 5 seasons. Had a lot of success in that role. And before that, coached at Florida for 4 years. And I guess the real question is, can he be a Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan type? I know that we're football guys, so we're talking about it in football terms, right? But, I mean, that's what you're kind of hoping for, because you would assume he's going to be relatively cheap.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe he can be the guy.
I think you're hoping for to use it the same analogy with McVay or Shanahan is maybe a Spoelstra whenever he first got the job at Miami. Here's the thing. Basketball, way different than football. You gotta have the guys. You gotta have the players, man. And I'm fascinated to see what they do. Sounds like they're trying to trade some guys. I think they're insane if they trade SGA for the number 1 overall pick. Why the hell would you trade a draft pick that has already turned out to be a good pick for a question mark? Why would you ever do that? So
well, the way I look at it is the current version of SGA would be the number 1 pick in this draft. And it wouldn't even be close, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's.
I think anyone that thinks that they're going to move SGA, I mean, you would have to get players, not more picks. You'd have to get players. We got enough picks, right?
Right.
Look at me. Yeah.
Well,
The
I mean,
Thunder
it's
organization.
one thing though, like if you have a Anthony Davis type talent or someone like that that's poised to be the number one overall choice, and it's a no-brainer. But that's not the case this year. So, yeah, I don't know. Fascinated to see what happens. I'm fascinated to see how this NBA season goes because a lot of the people surrounding it don't feel too optimistic for whatever reason. I mean, I know it's virus, that's the reason, but hopefully it gets off to a good, clean start, and we get to see some NBA basketball.
Yeah, but congratulations to Coach Mark Dagnall.
Mark D.
Coach Marky D. There we perfect. Marky D in the house in Oklahoma City. Congratulations, Marky D. All right, Ted. Episode 59 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop Monday morning. Just a reminder, you can hear Teddy from 2 to 6 on Sports Talk 1400. You can hear me from 3 to 5 on SiriusXM Big 12 Radio, channel 375. Hope you all have a great weekend. Until next time, we appreciate you all for listening, and do what you always do.